There's a couple of them. This year, and we have to redo the bank bid and we do the imagery through an RFP. We normally have photometry, so
Are you bound by statute to have to read that?
I am the statute both for that and imagery. Imagery used to have one vendor, so you didn't have to go out for bid. But now that there's multiple people that do it, you have to go out for RFP. And it's both on quantity, it's on the price basis, but it's also a quality, affordable thing.
Well, you're with Prosperity, I'm sure.
And
Nobody's going to touch what they have done for the local nonprofits, not just government agencies, but they're quite good. And you're a better spokesperson for the chairman when they're advertising.
that was all right.
Right. I forget what his name is, but he's nasal and kind of high pitched, particularly for a guy. And it just comes across the name.
Whiny.
Yeah,
I hate it.
somebody giving the mark.
Especially if I don't want to listen, if you're trying to spiel to me, give me a spiel and you're acting like you're whining.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, just because I don't want to listen anymore.
Stop. No.
I saw a lot of your peers at the TOOA conference.
Did you? I was going to attempt to go this year and it was between that and legislative. Because I'm on the legislative committee and I didn't go to either one of them.
We're running already?
Yep.
Thanks.
It's up and the audio working.
Good, thank you.
It's
Okay, thank you.
kind of hard for me to judge where I'm going to be at on the rates and stuff, what's going on with
It's
commissioner
such a
court.
weird
It's
time of year for
really,
you guys.
it's hard for us to. So I told one of them dinner, have fun back and take the legislators, well, I will hold off this year until next year. I need to get my feet a little bit more. Like this year was better than last year, and maybe next year we'll get even.
Yeah, I was not able to attend the TAG. Which is super busy. And so I had to go to the TAL meeting just for hours, but I'm going to the TAG meeting again, in February, so.
I used to go to that one in the school one in March. I did online. Well, no, there was an online one this year. What else I did online? No, I did it last year online for hours. Eventually, some hours.
I think I'm doing my legislative update online, and now they're offering the public funds course online. So that's good, because that was brutal to sit through for 2 days. It's just, there's some things, there's, when you go to these conferences, you have, at least this is my opinion, you have this is the whole group, this is the whole information. There's lots of classes in here. There's about this much that is both innovative and new, something you didn't know, you're like, ooh, I need to take note of that, and you write it down. There's some of it that you've heard 20 times, and it's just like, oh my gosh.
Again. You're gonna hit my-
And then there's about this much of it that you go, oh, so disagree with that sentiment, but there's nothing you can do about it. You just
Mhm.
endure. Yeah, I don't know if you feel that way, but that's how it's broken out for me in sentiments.
One in November too is our schooling is with PG on. So that's in Gallup for the years. Oh, by the way, good reads. I passed it on.
Thank you.
We have some water over here. Do we need some more cups?
Unless we can
Okay.
share.
Yeah.
You feeling better? You had about eye last time.
Yeah.
She called me that it might be a power reaction.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we got a lot in there. And
We've gone through a couple of bouts here in the office. We didn't have any sicknesses in 20 at all when it was at the height of everything. But then this year
we had them all in 21.
we had them all in 22.
We had them all in 21.
Except me, I haven't Been,
knock on some wood.
well,
Mine's been a year. I literally was quarantined when the county adopted the tax rate. I was zooming because I couldn't be. Yeah. Because I was at like really my first year
thank you, Terry.
and I get COVID during adoption times. I'm like, oh my God, I felt so bad for Jack Donager and she was calling me, I'm at home.
Nice. Why?
The other day, I was thinking about something and I looked over, and then as you were walking, I go, that was for Kayla. Like, I didn't even like put two, like, I was so out of sorts.
Don't even, we all get those like tunnel visions where we're thinking of something and.
I was thinking of my daughter, who was following her mom.
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to watch my son who was.
On the
at
field?
and- Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And I'm really sorry.
no, not a big deal at all, right? They didn't, we're all in our like minds all the time. Yeah, right. Well, no, I went up and I was talking to him and his wife.
I'm glad you think that way, because some of us were considered rude because we didn't acknowledge them. Sometimes, you know,
Didn't even see 'em.
you think $500?
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, a whole little capsule.
100%, or all, if I don't have my glasses on, people think I can see like this, and I'm like, I can't see this, I get right there. You know, so if I never say hi, then that's the other thing. Yeah. I can never. You know, we all get in our little minds.
Then you're trying to remember what you're there for.
Yeah, or you're thinking of 10 other things, and yeah, not gonna be.
Not to say hi to everybody. There's times I try to avoid stores at certain times because I don't have time.
I work
But I don't, and I don't want to be rude. So it's like HEBs, I just.
I do not go, I go to, literally, I'll go to Walmart after I leave the gym at 5:45 in the morning. I will go to Walmart, get what I need, and go home, and if I don't need it, and then it comes from HEB delivery, because I will not. I hate it, I
My
hate
wife,
it.
I do all the shopping.
Oh, do
Like,
you?
like if I need something, I'm the one that she will not.
Mhm.
And if she does have to, she goes, this is going on shift, if they're gonna bring it to my door.
Yeah, it overwhelms me.
Because people see you that want to.
No,
Your arm on something.
I know,
I can't handle the people standing in the middle of the aisles, it irritates me and just.
there's too many decisions,
I know, that's too.
kind of like Dillard's, like there's too many things that you look at, and I'm like, let me just go from point A, I'm a very, here's A, here's B, let me go and get what I need. I don't wanna do-
a shopper.
I'm not, now I'll online shop all day long, if I'm on hold with the customer, I'm like, you know, but HEB, Walmart, yeah.
Wife,
No, no. I mean, it's really, I.
Well, the first couple of years on the board, when HEB was.
Over here.
Mhm.
Little smaller, a lot smaller store. Somebody would need to, they thought they needed to stop and tell me what our football program needed, which coach we need to find.
No, now they just call. That was the first 3 hours.
No,
before you
you put it on
today.
Facebook.
Or put it on Facebook, and then I find out.
There's a reason why on Facebook, and that's one of them.
There's a lot, there's good reasons why not to, you know?
I got rid of a lot during the election, a lot disappeared and I will not bring it back.
Yeah.
My Facebook is family and friends.
Well, I have to give a shout out to the Sotos for the fact that, like, so Kay's playing varsity football this year, and it literally, like, is a full-time job. So between the cheer, I mean, how you guys did it with cheer and everything else, but I was sitting here going, so I gotta write a letter, do dinner, do all of this, and then I've got one playing at 5:30, I'm like, I don't have time, like.
cheers is pretty big commitment.
Cheer is a huge commitment, but that's what I'm saying, between cheer and what they all do with, I mean, it's cheer and football together nonstop, and I'm like.
Yeah, it's
God.
cool.
I had it. The year that we went to state, that was like,
Oh. Yeah, I don't
my
know.
daughter was basketball, everything.
Yeah.
She did everything.
Which of these is the narrative report, how you conduct analysis and.
The rate appraisal plan. The massive.
We should all-
Appraisal plans?
I'll stay in the meeting, like,
Reappraisal,
well, that was a great meeting.
2024 reappraisal.
Well, hello, sir.
Hey, good.
We're done. Although.
I was gonna-
I just said we should all stand up and be like, well, that was a great meeting.
You always make my day. Oh, the question I was thinking after a while.
All right, it's over. Yeah. Yeah.
Chairman, it is 2:01 if you want to, in traffic.
Larry's not coming?
Larry indicated he was, but, we didn't have one.
I just got it.
Okay.
Mine is like it is sign in.
I took my phone out. Like that is,
That one's sign in.
not that I'm going to answer it.
But
So often when someone talking,
Sign in.
it invents all kinds of things. Interrupt and
call and all that, yeah.
anyway, was that a document that we
Are you-
did last year?
No, it's every other year.
Okay.
Reappraisal plans are in every even year.
Great.
You kidding me, telling me like, oh, great, we were trading stories on the way back.
Very little of it is mine. That was so most of it
Random, and like, yeah, there's someone that's so beautiful, like, oh, wait, and I watched.
revised by one of my.
Day, 24 hours, and overnight.
Revised.
It's just gonna, that's where I
I'm the
felt
one.
real confident of exactly where it was.
But it's well
And
written.
then, almost like,
A lot of thought.
wordless, I mean,
Yeah.
it
So-
bothered me, like, it bothered me, it was, and I won't see where it was, and I knew, yeah, it's really, I can't, I have to.
Yeah.
I really didn't expect these, here they tell me like.
Well, I was impressed. Don't remember during the 2 years ago. Maybe it was, yes. But it is just incredible.
Yeah, your resolution.
Yeah, it's a run around, I thought I get.
Most recently signed 2 days ago by ID, so, you know. But it was probably, it was, it might be like.
Send me something, singing in pains.
Yeah, well,
So, when we look at
the.
prior to fiscal.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Really.
It was great, I've got some really cool.
That's
Plus you're running 3 minutes.
I'm gonna go check to see if there's any citizens on the online. While you're doing that, if you want to start us up.
I note the presence of the quorum, we call this meeting to order at 2:03. And
One participant.
Mike is checking, are there somebody?
So it's just one participant means that it's just us. There's no other.
Oh, okay. So nobody from the outside world. listening.
Wants to come in,
Look at one more thing, real quick.
wants to read all the documents.
I was wondering, if somebody wants to come, they get in late, can they? We don't invite them.
Only when you're, they can.
Like
only
waiting.
We just listen.
Oh, yeah, they can live there, she can let them in,
If they are,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people that want to watch from time to time and it'll come up on the participant screen. And then she can just hit the invite or accept. Yeah, invite,
Okay.
and they can just see. Otherwise, this is just recorded.
Okay, let's see, we have,
Did y'all open it up?
yeah, declare quorum, call it to order. And we're at item, we know that there's nobody on yet, so we'll check again after we get past the citizens encourage section. We're on item number 2, which is consider action on the minutes of June 10th. Do I hear the motion?
Yeah, I wasn't here, so
Oh, okay.
Travis, you gotta do it, or Colleen. Oh, you weren't either.
Travis, you're it.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second? I can second it. I probably can't make the motion, but Dee made motions, didn't he?
You can make a
Yeah,
motion.
okay. So either one of us can do that. All right, I'll second the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Minutes are adopted. Now we're at the citizens to be heard section, and we know that there's no one physically here. There's not anybody on the website or the Zoom meeting. So we'll declare item number 3 closed, and we'll go to public hearing on proposed 2023 budget. We have to declare the public meeting open, and then because there's nobody here, we'll close it and move on. So, all right, we are opening the meeting for the public hearing for the budget, that's item number 4. And noting that there isn't anybody here on Zoom, we will dispense with that, and we will move to item number 5, which is consider of and possible action on adoption of the 2022 budget.
And the 2023 budget, for your recollection, if you attended the June 10th meeting, is the same budget that was presented at that time. It's actually on your laptop, I mean, on your little tablet. It says 2023 proposed budget PDF. And this is what was presented. This is also the information that was sent to all the entities back at that time. So shortly after that meeting, we sent a certified letter to all of the entities, informing them of the budget and the position pay plan, or position plan. It's the pay schedule that's commensurate with that. Also, their apportionment, which basically says that, hey, of this budget, you're responsible to pay this much. And so that's what we send to the entities all the time. A 60-day period from that time to this period to now has passed, and therefore this board is authorized to consider and make an action upon this budget.
And which one did you say, Michael?
It's called 2023 proposed budget.
Right under reappraisal.
And this is also the one that's the one we have to do we also have to do a notice in the paper, which we ran for 2 cycles. And this is the number that's reflective of that number as well, which is the 1,258,583 number. That is the total expense. And I believe that should match what you were looking at just a minute ago. Chairman, you were looking at, oh, this one right here.
Yes.
This
Different format, but
This is the notice of the public hearing, which is, that number matches the number that is on the proposed 23.
And this budget's already been circulated with all the other,
Yeah.
well, right, they've seen it was on the process, seen budget was passed, so,
Yeah, it was circulated in June.
okay. Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, it is questions, with me with one of the commissioners. He thought that was something to do with me. No, that would be the appraisal distribution pays out. That's on my budget.
and I was often a little confused by that myself. If there's some sharing there, and once you get your head wrapped around it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we get a second?
You want to say?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the budget as presented, please say aye. Okay. We're really doing good. We finished this kind of thing.
He has a stopwatch going.
We don't need to- we can't have this meeting until everybody weighs in. and extend it.
Right.
We'll discuss this budget meeting time. This is.
The reason it's set up.
Double deep into this.
The reason that it's set up that by June 10th of every year, this board proposes a budget, is so that there can be a 60-day period for the entities to kind of look at it and say, oh, this is great, or I have questions. And they get to bring up those questions to both the board and to me. And by this time, you're making a consideration and action upon it. And the reason it's a public hearing is the public is the way to do it.
Yeah.
School district, same way, they hold a public hearing and nobody's there. And
You wait 5 minutes to see if anybody says something.
Once we have to do it twice.
Okay, and we voted, so we're
good on that.
5, consideration, no, excuse me, number 6, consideration of action on the reappraisal appointment. And
That is the one, that's the document right above the one we just looked at, which is the 2023-2024 reappraisal plan. And it's pretty robust, but it's, I will say it's loosely written from the standpoint that we don't like to paint ourselves in the corners. We want to be able to have the flexibility to use all 3 approaches to value for every property, every parcel within the county. Meaning that if we look at a parcel we want to consider the highest and best use approach. So we have to consider every approach, which is both the sales comparison approach, the cost approach, and the income approach. And so we don't, this document is pretty, although it's well written, it's loosely written from the standpoint we don't like to paint ourselves into a corner. And I know that Jack read it because he was talking about how he was talking about some of the facets of it.
It's the most concise, detailed document on what you guys do that I ever remember seeing.
That's what I said. I said it was like a history report. Like it was very deep. I felt like I was sitting in a history class.
Okay.
So,
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad.
no, it was very detailed.
I asked Michael if he wrote it. He said, no, it really goes back 2 generations, but it's been tweaked along the way. But
Yeah, this is well written. I read it and revise it, or I go into the revision process, but I have people, I mean, there's people before me that have written this.
Well, just the definitions were, you know, of everything.
And I'll be glad to answer any questions on this. Or I can go over it summarily if you want me to, or you can just make an action on it.
we both have read it, so.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Unless we have any questions, I would entertain a motion approving its adoption.
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of the reappraisal plan.
Is there a second? There you go. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
And that is for you. You read that in the record or it's in the record.
It's in the record.
Okay.
I'm going to break you. So.
Okay.
Where's the official minute that they're going to sign that?
There's,
Do
Do you have it, or is this?
it may be
Let's see, it's in there.
right here.
Okay.
That's yours.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, I have it. I just didn't know if there was one document. Okay, now there's been respectfully submitted, wouldn't be my signature, would it? The approved signature would be mine, correct? So who would?
Let me see. Let me see. I think they're both.
Okay. If we find out differently, just let me know.
Yes, this is the minutes. Is there a difference on that one over there? The
No, they're all-
resolution is what I'm saying.
Don't,
No, the resolution.
yeah, hang on.
What does that say? Chairman and then what? is-
Then the secretary,
There you
so that would be you. Correct?
I'm the secretary.
You. So probably this could be the same thing, that also I'm looking at if we find out.
I know I don't sign minutes, so.
Okay.
That I do know.
We might have had 2 lines on in there.
Okay. Set that aside, and we are now at Chief Appraiser's report. Number 7.
So the chief appraiser's report consists of 3 things. Typically, we have the supplemental road presentation, the financials, and finally the building update, which is just going to be an oral report. For the supplemental role presentation, that always that role presentation that I have to present to you on a quarterly basis. It's also the thing that you can't really have an action on. You can have a question about, but you can't make any action on it because certified role changes are submitted to and approved by the ARB, which is the Appraisal Review Board. And so in light of that, I can go into it's called certified role changes to assess value by group, which is just below the EOD agenda. And that's kind of a summary report of those group numbers, and it kind of gives you a total. So you can see that, so at the top of the page, it says group 415. These are homestead cap removal and 2525 Cs, which is 2525 Charlie. It's chief appraiser motion. 2525 is a motion to correct an error to the roll. And I've explained this before, but basically when you have a certified role, you have like a scroll.
Mhm.
And you tie it up like this, and I put my seal on it, and so did the ARB, they put their seal on it. But then you have things like exemption, or exemption removals, or clerical error, or something like that. So you have to open up the scroll, you have to do the change. The ARB is made aware of that presentation and the change, and then they roll it back up and they put another seal on. This, all we're doing is giving you a summary of that event, and there are multiple events. So with that, I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have. The biggest changes that you'll see will be in group 424, and that's mainly just settlements, and ARB decisions. Again, those are just things that are handled in the course of business that the ARB hears. Late filings for homestead cap loss. You have ARB decisions in group 423. Omitted property, homestead cap removals, mobile home removals, business personal property changes. I mean, I can go into each one of these in detail if you want me to, but basically this is my presentation to you to see that these are all of these supplemental changes. Furthermore, each one of these changes goes to the tax assessor collector, and she gets to either collect more taxes or send out a refund commensurate with whatever the change is, mostly refund. Right? She's like, oh, yeah.
And this, yeah, and yeah, sometimes it's not a good time of the year either. It's hard, but it's usually refunds.
Right.
I have one question, just so that I understand the mechanics of it. In the second sentence, if you will, second box under 422. Well, actually, I think it's up there as well. The verbiage homestead cap loss due to late filing of exemption. So they lost their homestead cap.
No, it's a cap, so a homestead cap is a, it's the difference in value, market value to appraised value due to the statutory mandated homestead exemption, in which a property can only go by more than 10% in the next year. When you have a late filing, it's somebody that says they're late to the game, and the law allows the person to turn it an exemption up to 2 years late. So basically, they're coming to us and saying, here's my exemption, I'd like my exemption. Oh, by the way, I've been there since 2020. And you get to give it to them, and they get tax savings associated with that. That's the best way I can explain it.
I actually helped a guy years ago that never filed his over 65. Yeah, I understand it now. And that is an action item.
No.
No, it's not.
just
But
a
what's the rolling stock?
Rolling stock is,
Huh?
question.
it's
No.
rolling stock is train.
Train tracks.
Ah.
It's things in transit.
Gotcha.
And that number is actually given to us by the state, by the comptroller.
Okay.
So it's the very first supplement of every given year. So we would always withhold the rolling stock number. We give it as value 0 for her calculations.
And then state.
And then the state gives it to us like 5 days later, typically within 10 days.
They usually pretty quick about it.
That's
Within
great.
10
Got
days.
it, got it.
And then give us a number, and
I have to
they
use
do
it
the
in my
calculations across the state, they do the enforcement. And they give us a number, we do it, we give it to Anna.
Yeah, because I have to calculate,
That's-
use it in the calculations for tax rates.
Well, I'm glad to know that, but the term rolling stock and financials is just that.
Yeah.
It is vehicles and
Not just trains.
tractors and.
Interesting.
What's our lawsuit activity like?
Lawsuit activity, we have a mediation, we've settled. Most recently, now I'm trying to go back, I think it's not part of the presentation, but I'm trying to go back, there's several lawsuits that we have settled, that, I say several, there's been at least 2 lawsuits that we've settled since we last met, I believe. Does that sound right to you, Anna?
I want to say they were settled before,
Was it in May?
end of May.
Okay, that's what I'm
When I
thinking.
started, well, it was in the middle of, you may be right, one of them covered in the middle of June, because I know I was doing quite a few of them in May and June.
Yeah, so the way lawsuits go forward is that they file a lawsuit, there's there's discovery, there's like back and forth, there's mandatory mediation that's done by the judge here locally mandates a mediation. We sit through mediation or we have back and forth discussion. Sometimes there's a mandatory meeting mediation, which we have one next Tuesday, I believe. Which is one that we're still on the books for. But we've, this year we've received
We've already- 3 or 4 already.
four for this year, but it's less activity than what we've had last year. Which
Last year was a lot.
Yeah.
Last year was a lot.
Well, that was the first climb from Harvey too, wasn't it? Or-
No, the year before was like the last couple of years, this last year was, it was quite a few, because when I had to do the lots and gains for there was a lot to take, a lot monitor compared to what it's been.
That's right.
Last year was a lot,
So there's,
number
we,
wise.
we have ongoing lawsuits.
Yeah.
I think our oldest lawsuit is in 18 that's still
Yes.
not closed. But we have some in 19, some in 20. The majority of them are in 20, if I remember. And then it was about the same in 24. And we have less this year that are in our hands. Because the appraisal appeal season just ended about a month ago, is that right, Karen? We ended,
Like a few weeks ago.
yeah, 3 weeks ago. So people have 60 days to file a lawsuit. So we still may get some in, but our initial observation is that we'll have less than we did last year, which is a good trend to have.
That's really good.
Very good.
All right. That's what I have for the supplemental role presentation. Moving on to the financials. You should see something that says,
Snapshot.
yeah. I'm having trouble finding it on the things. Not proposed budget. You just have it written out. Okay, good. So this is our financial snapshot as of July. July represents 7/12 of a year, which is 58%. And then you can see as a good measure where we are in each line item from there. So in this particular case, we're just going to work down the list. The first breakdown is just revenues. We can skip over that. Your retirement, hospital insurance, 54%, retirement, 57%, Medicare, we're at 51%, unemployment insurance, we're only at 6% of year to date. Long-term disability is 58%, workman's comp is 27%. So those are good measures that's telling you that we're within our parameters right now of where we should be. Moving forward, you see the capital outlay is only 16%. Advertising and legal notices were at 120. We had to spend a little bit more on some of those notices this year for whatever reason. Something of note that if you'll look at it like, hey, how do we account for that? Some of those things we already have accounted for. So if you look at advertising and legal notices, we bumped that number up from 26 to 29 already in the budget you just approved. So, but we're, it's just an estimate. Moving down, we don't have any board of review expense yet. We typically pay our ARB board members after the season, and there's one more. We have one more meeting coming up here in about 2 or 3 weeks, and that will be the bulk of their work for the year. And we kind of handled that. So you'll have a number in the next meeting. The next one that you have is the bookkeeping and auditing, which is, we're at 6,800 there, 111%. Auto expenses are only at 6%. That number is going to grow quite a bit. We do most of our driving for the county this time of year. So by the time you see the next 2 cycles, you'll see that number really increase. Let's see, conference and association dues, those are at 26. Data process is in 82. The reason we always get tripped up here because you'll see that our budgeted amount is 47,000 and change. But really, if you'll look at the very top of the page, the data processing that's part of revenue comes from the tax office. So really, if you're looking at 47 plus, the 17, that's your number. So it always looks like we overspend there, but we always get revenue for it. So, and the tax office is obviously already paid us for that. Education, meals, hotels, we're only at 7%. Again, the fall is also the time of year that we have a lot of testing for our RPAs. I just went to a conference. We have 2 other people that are just went to conferences and to classes. That number is going to grow over the fall. It's required education. Aerial photography, we're at 99%. Basically, we only get that bill once a year, so it's already paid for. GIS maintenance, we're at 59% there. Legal services, this is an area that the board has recently addressed. We're at 109 already. We're basically 7/12 or a little over halfway through the year, and we're already 100% of things of the budget. But you'll notice that you just adopted 72,000 to account for that, so there'll be a little bit of offset between years. Insurance bond premiums 59%. Moving down to legal. Let's see. Oh, I already did that one. I'm sorry. Miscellaneous 79%. Postage fees were at 85. Oh, I'm off. Yeah,
Yeah.
postage fees is
85.
85, yeah. Record copies, we're at 100%. Education course fees, we're at 23%. Telephone, we're at 51%. Valuation services, we're at 56%. IT replacement, we're at 184. But notice that number is also one of those numbers that the I at the very top, the tax office pays for 7,500 of that. So that's 15,000 rather than 15,000 against the 13,800. So we're okay there as well. Personnel services, we're at 57%. Printing off supplies, we're at 92%. I will tell you that number's high, and we will be over budget there. Because we had that office in the back. We came back, we had to replace a lot of the things we had, lost there were some things we lost in the flood, that we never quite replaced. We didn't have anywhere to put it in that small trailer. And so when we got back, we restocked the office. So we spent some more on office supplies. Utilities were 57%, and we're overall 60% as opposed to 58 that we should be. So we seem to be in line with everything. To the right, you can see the apportionment that we've already received from the taxing units. You can see that at the far right-hand column, you see 100, 100, 100, and then 75% because we've already received that third quarter disbursement from all the taxing units. So we look to be receiving funds in good order, and everything seems to be running along. As far as the budget, the building update, you can see the state of the building's in right now. We're really pleased with our new space. We do have some blue tape on the wall because we have some last thing punch lists and some doors to be keyed, but other than that, we're really happy with our space. I will also tell you that coming up in our next meeting, I will have already started the RFP proposal stuff for the items on the exterior that we've already talked about at this board. This board has already said, hey, we want to do these kinds of things. And I know that Progressive, who did the interior work, is going to be bidding on the exterior work as well. But I do have to go for RFP and RFB. I don't know which one it is. It's one of the two. We have to go out for bid. And the reason for it is because the dollar amount is over $50,000. And so we're going to be doing those 2 items here coming up in the fall. Also, other items that we have to go out for is spectrometry imagery, because the imagery, there's other vendors out there now, and so we have to go out for bid. We're going to be doing that this fall as well. And we'll just let you be involved with all of the results and the unopening and the unbidding. And we'll just schedule those meetings, and you get to be part of that decision making on who we go with for those services. Bank is another one of those that we have to do because we've been at it for 4 years. You can do 2 years and then re-up for 2 years, but then on the 4th year, I believe you have to. Is that right? I know
They relaxed a little bit of it.
I have to do it. I have to do it.
Yes, it's not an easy shift if you decide to do it.
No.
So that'll be coming up this fall as well, but it's not ready for present. None of those are ready for presentation right now. There will be ready for presentation in our next meeting, for some of them will be.
Did you ever get anything from Jack Cheney about the electrical bypass?
I did, he gave me kind of an update,
Okay.
to know if we wanna, that was not in either one of the original scopes that this board has talked about. But if you want me to include it into the RFP or RFP, I definitely can. And we can,
Well, we talked about having the company do it and getting the generator, and it was a complete turnkey deal. But it was so expensive, we knew that it would pass. And so the ability to have somebody put in the bypass switch and us rent a generator under less than ideal circumstances to keep running, that would allow us to do it without kind of any details.
I thought we did talk about having.
We
a
talked
generator.
about it,
We
yeah.
talked about. the
And we
switch.
said to go ahead and, I thought we
Find
talked
out
about on that
find
tour,
out
get
if
a
we
price
needed it.
or whatever. It'd be stupid not to have
the
one.
generator bid was enormous.
Yeah, we talked about the switch.
The one that I received was enormous, I think like 60 or 80 grand to do all of the.
That's the minutes, the board recommended a transfer switch generator.
Yeah,
The transfer switch,
the transfer.
but
switch.
not not to do,
Right.
because
The
I
other
already,
generator was too much, and we said at least we need a transfer switch, because if we don't have a generator full time and can't afford it, we better be able to pull one up real quick
Yeah.
and get it hooked up.
so
You can rent a big old
We
portable.
were talking about while they were doing all the construction.
I'll have it done.
Yeah,
so I will include that in the RFP or RFP for the exterior work. I'll put it on one of those two packages, because we talked about painting, the marine grade, the damming of the doors. And then the second project was the hurricane proof of this front glass, like replacing it, this, that part and the storage in the back.
I was
So
gonna say where the safe and all that was, didn't you move this?
the safe was out the side.
Okay.
Yeah, the safe is gone. But the exterior storage, we're trying to get our long-term appraisal rolls from when our old office that was destroyed. It was in the very back. It was one of the few things that we were able to recover. But we had a company come in at that time and actually box it all up and take it to storage in Victoria. People question that, like, why did you send it all to Victoria? Because we were, your needs are, you just get it away from the coast. You know,
Yeah.
just Get it,
And Victoria is a place that a lot of people see.
Yeah. So anyways, those things will be coming up in future meetings. You'll be informed of, like you get to decide when that next meeting is, but it'll be in the next quarter, and I'm gonna try to do all of those RFP and RFP work. Just, I'll get those written and, put it in the newspaper, and then I'll tell you when that bid is gonna be open and you get to make a decision about it, so.
GSM has a generator and a bypass switch already, don't you? It's the one on site. What's your fuel source?
No, guys.
Do you know that your meter is still intact?
I don't touch the generator, so.
It's a big question for you to follow up, put it in somebody's hands. I would
If the meter's still intact, is that the-
make sure it's still there. Make sure that your gas meter is still there, because you can have gas that you use on a regular.
No.
Okay. This is kind of coming from a personal standpoint. I was driving down 35 business, and I noticed that they're putting this 4-foot box culverts underneath the lanes, which goes right by the way. I called us and I said, you realize that gas to supply our generator and meter comes underneath from directly across the street, otherwise it runs down the north side of one. She came back, going back a little bit later, she says, what gas meter are you talking about? I said, it sits right out there by the ATM. She says, there's nothing there. We backtracked and found out the city, and it's been since in December following the hurricane, took it out because we weren't using it. Well, it has no use except under a storm situation, and they took it out. And then we had to prove that we didn't give the order for them to take it out. But anyways, it's back. You might want to make certain that they didn't.
Figure it out too.
Yeah, I think they run automatically on a regular basis. So,
To test.
yeah, and then they've got monitors on them, like that are remote monitored all the time. So like,
So that means you get the generator on site.
They're on site, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and they're remotely monitored, so I will check, but I'm thinking through it, and talking, like, hopefully some of this is.
Well, and
Had not
because you got it
run
on
itself.
site, it's different. It tests itself periodically.
It does, it runs itself at least.
Ours is not on site.
Once a
We
week.
bring it in from
Okay,
Three Rivers or something like that.
okay, no, these are on site, they run like once a week and get monitored and all that stuff.
My Idaho was a blessing to do business with. We still had to kind of backtrack and said, we haven't had it for 3 years.
That is interesting, though, I would have never thought to look for that.
Hey, but your home's not running, or your parents is probably running fast.
Oh, yeah, they run,
Are they?
yeah, they're all monitored.
On there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Unsolicited advice.
No, that's very interesting, that has been a hell of a thing, I have to say. Figure out, you know,
Yeah. Well, when this came up for the first week of hurricane season, y'all know what happens when you have to do something with the last minute.
Doesn't happen.
Okay.
Well, that's all I've got for the chief appraiser's report, and I'll entertain any questions about anything else that we got going on.
I just have to say again that reappraisal document
Was-
it's impressive.
Result of many years of
It is, it's,
cumulative work.
it is, you try to you try to put it in a written format, you go, yeah, that's what we do. And, you know, and, yeah, but we don't do quite, and then you find out that through much of the years, you had a whole bunch of appraisal legalese or phraseology that doesn't mean anything to anybody, so you try to, not saying dumb it down, but make it in more easier to understand terms, and but it's a conglomeration of documents.
It's been a successful working document.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, I mean, there's no questions about it, it was so deep.
No.
I felt like it's a college dissertation, like it was very, yes, they very much
And it's
read.
gotten good marks over the years, I mean, with the updates and, you know, so it's not broke.
That's right.
That's it.
Very good.
And it has been tested, you know, like we've been to extremes, you know, of testing both by PBS and MAP. And it talks about all those things, those methods and procedures in the PBS studies and the ratio studies. And we do all those things, you know. We do all those things that people don't want to think that we do, but we really do. You know? So.
Hey, this is just
Well,
random, but have y'all had a month of bills yet with the utility on this building?
Yeah, it's better.
And it's all been good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, utility bills are within reason.
Well, yeah, because you've been out with the portable, so I was just curious how the first month of bills.
Yeah, it gets a little warm in here. We have a return, but you have to, sometimes we have to bring in a fan to kind of run to keep things moving. But it isn't, it hasn't been 106, so we are on the western wall. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Compared to what we used to have, this is light years better. I mean, the old building, but even when we purchased here, I mean, it just looks totally different.
Oh,
Looks
no, it's
good.
nice, it looks great, I love the
Looks
doors.
good. Yeah,
Doors.
those look good.
Doors last time, those look great, awesome.
So official.
Yeah.
Been a long road.
Yeah, it has been. We're grateful for it. We're thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that other building was there, how long was the regular district in that old building?
Well, well, not truly its inception. I think it was in one other place before that for a few years, from what I understand, speaking to Jad. But from the inception of the appraisal district within a few years, all the way through when we had Hurricane Harvey. So that would have been 82.
Just meaning of history
Yeah,
and
see how I
education,
know
this
that.
building's gonna last a long time,
Did you know
so I'll put
the
that.
tax roll for
Done right.
82 what permanent records for us?
There you go.
Because that was the year that the appraisal district was started. We actually have that.
It started in
roll.
82.
82, the appraisal
The
district. started.
Pivot
Yeah.
was the orchestrator, the law writer at the time. He was the
And
builder.
I had the 80, matter of fact, if you would like them, you could have them, the 82 roll books for in my office.
You should frame it.
They're books.
Oh, they're books.
They're,
Never mind.
they're the big.
That's your coffee table
There's
like
like
for all the
4
arguments.
The easy about that building and this county in 82 versus what this county is now.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, what that building was serving, when it went down in 17 versus 82, you know, it's
I have like 5 books from 8.
a lot of mileage out of it.
Delinquent tax, $4.
No way. That's super cool.
The calligraphy writing that are in them just impresses the shit out of me.
That's impressive.
It's so neat.
Uh-huh.
It's like, how people are just.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of a side note, they had the memorial, with Hurricane Harvey
Mhm.
just last week and it was last week. Yeah.
Mm,
And I took one of our bricks. We had about 15 bricks from our whole building.
Oh,
And I
really?
took one of the bricks over and I presented it to the chamber, because they have a display and if they wanted to display it, they could. Which I thought was it was one of the public buildings that was lost.
I had one of the courthouse bricks.
That's neat.
I have it in a plastic bag.
Been through a long time. And
Very cool.
I don't care, the building, I put it in a bag and it's in my office.
and I think that's one of the things I have on my desk. I want to read this to you. One other thing, if you'll bear with me real quick.
No. I want
You
to,
should.
but I want to. I just
Times
don't-
that get difficult. Todd Pearson, as mayor, gave the city government part of it. And he brought out a book that you had to wear white gloves and then touch it, otherwise it was kind of red color. This was a shoot 'em up party town in the 1870s.
Has it changed?
Well, yeah, in a manner of speaking, because
I feel like it's-
one of the first city ordinances passed was it's illegal to discharge a firearm in public street.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, well, following that, they had to hurriedly pass another one that says it's illegal to discharge a firearm in public building because it didn't say street.
Oh, my God. That's
And the
crazy.
same kind of thing, what somebody got thrown in jail for. There was one of them, we'd love to know the history of it. This guy got the crap beat out of him by a lady, and they put him in jail.
That's crazy.
I normally don't, I normally don't like to point the spotlight at myself, because I get enough public scrutiny, just by virtue of my position. But,
me to read it?
yeah, actually read this. This is, from the comptroller's office on the newsletter, that's right.
There you go.
And it says, well done.
Let me read this.
Yeah, sure. This is about the appraisal district, so I'm really proud of this.
Okay. This quarter, PTAD, which is
Property Tax Assistance Division.
PTAD, turns the spotlight on Chief Appraiser Michael Soto and Aransas County Appraisal District. Having been displaced by Hurricanes Harvey and Hannah in recent years, Aransas has continued to operate effectively and is a prime example of why appraisal districts need to have a current disaster recovery plan. Way to go, Mike, and Aransas County Appraisal District.
So we're recognized in the property tax division.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
hey, and well deserved. I
That's
would, I don't think there's many that have been tested to the level that this district was tested, and the fact that it performed. If you didn't know any better from the outside, in many ways, and if nothing happened, is I was there to all, very impressive.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
how long have you been on the job?
Yeah, just, what, 7 months, 8 months?
And half the staff was new. I mean, it wasn't just you. I mean, you're barely on the job with new staff. I mean, it truly is a success story.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Anyways, I wanted to brag on my.
Good
myself.
job.
Awesome, right?
well deserved.
Oh,
Right. We don't- That's it, that's all I've got.
Okay.
Chief Appraiser report.
If nothing else,
I will not make the motion to
we
adjourn.
are adjourned.
Yay. Travis, after you.
That's right.
One thing I
Good
want to say.
job.
Right?
Do not take your appraisal district forward.
Good one.
That's right.
I like those. I tend to steal those kind of things.
I got a phone call.